This video is going to be about two addictions that I have that really haven't bothered me very much. I tend to get away with them without causing too much trouble in my single life, but recently I met a girl and her family wants me to marry her, and it really got me reevaluating how the lifestyles associated with both of them would fit in a relationship, or perhaps even in the future when we have children. And one thing that really got me ashamed of is my eating habits. The problem with my eating habits is that I get away with it. If I didn't, I probably would have had done something about it. My problem with eating is the quantity. I don't have a problem with the quality. It's kind of funny how it all started. When I was 16 years old, I was very overweight. It's kind of hard to see now, but I had a number of addictions. I was drinking 2 or 3 liters of soda every day. I was eating fast food almost nonstop. I still remember my family and we would travel. We would go see my grandparents in Taipei, or my cousin. She was studying in Canada, first in Vancouver and then in Toronto. And I distinctly remember when she was in Toronto because I really loved the road trips up there. My brother was 5 years old, and I remember being in the car with him, and we don't normally get to spend that much time together because we're in such a different world. I was working on a math problem called Ramsey theory, just as a hobby, and also it kind of got me some connections in the field. And he was 5 years old. He didn't even know what 1 plus 1 was, and I was doing Ramsey theory. And we also, of course, had different circles of friends, we might play video games together, but he and I just did completely different pages. So being in the car with him was really nice because it forced us to spend time together that we normally wouldn't have because of, I was also suffering from addiction back then. And this is why the idea of having children and being ashamed that someday I have to tell my kids, hey, daddy has a problem, don't be like him, really ate at me today. So when I was 16 years old, I stopped drinking soda and I stopped consuming a lot of unhealthy foods. I started reading labels. And I remember my strategy at the time. Now looking back at it, it's kind of backfired. But my strategy was to never even be slightly hungry, so that I would always be in control of what I ate next. I would never be in a situation where, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I can't even be bothered to look at the ingredients. So my strategy was to eat 5,000 calories of healthy food every day as a preventative measure, so that I wouldn't get a craving for, McDonald's when I was on my way home from school, or, go to a friend's house and see donuts or chips or something like that. I kind of ate first, so as a preventative measure. And the funny thing was, I don't know why, but I still continued to lose a lot of weight despite eating 5, 6, 7,000 calories a day back then. I used to be much more active than I am nowadays. Now a lot of times I'm stuck behind a desk. I actually recently had a choice of jobs to take, and I chose one of the criteria I chose was to make sure the work environment was as active as possible. Despite the line of work I do being not very active, I don't work on construction or heavy equipment or anything, but I still I still consciously took inventory of how active your typical employee would be at the place. So that's unfortunately that's a compromise that we often have to make depending on our line of work. But it reminds me of a few years ago when I was working at a different place, and around the same time, a different girl also wanted to marry me. I ended up breaking it up because she wanted children a lot sooner than I had hoped. And it also got me reevaluating my habits. I don't want to be, at 3 a.m., my kids catch me binge eating and writing computer games. I love to write computer games, and sometimes when I do that in the middle of the night, and then I get a craving, and then I go out and get food, and my kids wake up at 3 a.m., because they had a nightmare, and they wake up and they see dad's binge eating, and first of all, they might want to join in. I don't want my kids to develop this problem, or you know, um, the next day when I'm driving my kids to school, and I'm almost having a car accident because I didn't sleep, and then my kids, they tell their friends, oh my God, my dad eats like 50 bananas in a night, or that he drinks several gallons of coconut water. I don't want to be that kind of a joke. I get away with it personally. If I lived out my life as a single guy, I probably would have never took any sort of evaluation on this habit. Except that sometimes it becomes a financial problem. That's the only time when it pinches me when I'm single. And I maybe take inventory of it. But anyways, getting back to when I was working at a different company a few years ago, I had a coworker who was trying to quit smoking, and he and I made a pact. He would try to quit the smoking, I would try to quit the binge eating because it was keeping me up all night. At the time, I had just moved to Seattle, Washington. I lived in New York City for a few months, and I just moved to Seattle. I got really carried away and excited, and I couldn't stop celebrating. There were several weeks or months where every day seemed like Christmas again, and I would eat another 10,000, 20,000 calories. And so he and I made a pact, and he kept it, and I didn't. Because I still have to eat food, right? I have to go from 2,000 down to 3,000, 20,000 down to 3,000 calories, whereas he goes from 20 cigarettes to zero. And I actually find zero to be a lot easier. That's why I quit drinking soda altogether. I used to drink 2 or 3 liters of soda, but I distinctly remember quitting the soda overnight. It was not actually before that. I had tried to gradually quit because my parents made me. Not gradually quit, but cut back because my parents forced me to. They wouldn't buy it. I didn't have a car or a driver's license. We lived in the country where you had to walk 1.5 miles just to get soda, and I wasn't bothered enough to do that at the time. I mean, nowadays walking 1.5 miles is a pretty routine experience for me. But it got me started when the girl she and I well, her family wants her to get married to me. I don't think she has any concept of marriage, but we do get along very well. And it got me thinking. I don't want to be explaining why Daddy is eating a million bags of natural chips made with coconut oil every night, or to be up so late that the next day I'm just completely out of it. As a single guy, it's a great experience. Later this year, Jupiter is gonna come in opposition. I hope to go see it. So here in downtown Seattle, it's very difficult to view the night sky because of the light pollution. I hope to go to Ellensburg. I have a favorite vantage point there to see it, and then I'm going to be binge eating, and then I'm going to come home, and the next day I'm going to be completely out of it, and I'm going to just go to work and be so crazy. I can't do that when I'm married. This has been a big point of depression for me, actually, because I really love my relationship with myself, and I kind of have to divorce myself in order to get married. So anyway, it really reminds me of how we need to enjoy these little events in life, even if they're uncomfortable, because you never know when you actually do have to, for whatever reason, have to stop doing it. And it makes me realize you should never take anything for granted. Thanks for watching.